Good evening, or welcome to Driver's Ed this evening. Hopefully you don't hear an echo. I'm getting some type of a warning, so when you do sign in, if you do have a problem with what you're hearing, please let me know. This particular program that I use has constant updates, and I try to keep it up to date. So remember to sign in so I can see who's here. Remember to give me a text on your phone that you're here. I would like everybody to make sure that you've signed into Facebook, to the Remote Driver's Ed, because some people did not take the the pre-test. The midterm is going to be the next test that we take on that platform. How's it going? Everybody having a good night? Any problem with the echo? I think we're probably done with the music anyway, so we'll get out of that. I don't know about anybody else, but is anybody else missing a regular routine in the summer, being able to do certain things? Well, our family is a big sports family. We love going to Red Sox games, Celtics games, things like that. And on my Facebook feed, this morning when I was having my coffee, I noticed that my son was at a Red Sox game last year to this date, and I thought I'd just give you a hint of what we're missing. This is what should be going on right now, so let me cue up. This was my son last year, a year ago today. So way up there in the upper deck, that's my son. That's my son catching the ball. I thought that was pretty cool. So hopefully baseball will be back soon, and we'll be doing our regular thing. Same thing, I hope we're back in school in September, and we don't have to go through all these different hoops to do whatever we need to do. Well, anyways, tonight's topic is on knowing your vehicle. And usually by this time, if we were in a classroom and we didn't have the 2 months of being self-quarantined, you'd be driving this week. And one of the first things that I try to do when you get into the vehicle is to kind of go through the car controls. So chapter 4 in the textbook, Responsible Driving, really kind of went through the different things that you should be familiar with. So I know if you're familiar with cars, this is going to be somewhat redundant, but it's really important to have a basic understanding of all the car controls and what to do. So I would say about half of tonight will be taking notes from this PowerPoint, and then I'm going to let you go, and I want you to go back into YouTube or flip down to YouTube to some of the videos that I've done prior. And I did a video on the outside, the inside of the vehicle, and some things that you should know about what to do before you drive. So it'll get me away from being behind the microphone here. You'll get to see what the driver's ed vehicle looks like and the car controls that I want you to be familiar with. So get out a piece of paper and a pen, and we'll get right into tonight's topic. So are you really ready to drive? What are the important steps to follow prior to moving your vehicle out on the roadway? So the first thing that I want you to write down is that no matter what car that you drive, you should always have in the back of your mind is your destination. Where am I driving? Now, this could be practice driving with your parents, or you could even be a licensed driver. The thing that I want you to understand is that you want less time in your car, more time doing the things that you want to do. So don't take the longest route unless there's a reason why. It wastes fuel, wear and tear on your vehicle. Now, driving can be, relaxing. It could be fun. But for the most part, transportation is an end to a means. We're trying to get from point A to point B. So what is the best route to take? So write down in your notes, you should start to get yourself familiar with route numbers. All the state roads in New Hampshire have numbers. They also have a name. Now, because we're based in Durham, and most of you go to Oyster River, that the two roadways that we will travel almost on every single drive that we have will be Route 108 and 155. Now, it also has a name, which would be either the Dover Road or the Durham Road. And I'm not quite sure what 155 is named, now that I think of it. But 108 is Dover Road. And then when you switch over into Dover, it becomes the Durham Road. The other thing that you should know is that how many stops will you need to make on your particular drive? You want to make it more linear rather than going around in circles for most of the day. And I put down, do you need directions? Now, most people have cell phones that have GPS. Cars have GPS. So probably the best way to do this is to make sure that you have your destination pumped into your phone, pumped into your car prior to your drive. You cannot change directions while the car is moving. So in your notes, if you get lost or go off track, recalculate with your car GPS or your phone GPS in a stop position. You can't do it while you're moving. Well, you can't do the car while you're moving. You could do your phone while you're moving, but it's not recommended. It's always good to get numbers and street names when you're getting directions to some place. So make sure you know where you're going. The second thing that I want you to write down is that be in tune to your physical and emotional state. Now, what do I mean by that? The way that you feel, the emotions that you're feeling outside of the car will come inside of the vehicle. Meaning that if you're really ticked off at your best friend and you get into the school parking lot, get into your car, those feelings just don't disappear. You're going to be driving down the road still ticked off. Same thing. If you're tired, okay, you just woke up and you get a phone call and you've got to go pick up your mom because you're borrowing the car, and you're going to go pick her up at work because you've been napping all day, you're going to still be a little groggy, a little tired when you're behind the wheel of the car. So know your physical and emotional state when you're driving. Fatigue catches up with everybody, and that's the one thing that most people won't admit to is when they're sensing being tired. They will try to fight it. We're going to have a whole section on fatigue a little bit later in the third or fourth week of class. Same thing with under the influence of drugs or alcohol. We're going to talk about that later down the road. But just, of course, I guess I'll mention it. I've had 2 students over the years that have come to drive, and I could smell, detect an odor of alcohol on them. It was during the summer months. So if you think that I'm dumb enough that I'm going to let you get behind the wheel of the car and I can smell alcohol on your breath, you've got another thing coming to you. Okay, both of these people were dismissed from the driver's ed program. One of them, I learned, could not get their license till they were 18. So I have zero tolerance for anybody under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Body ailments, more like sprains, like if you're playing sports and you're just achy, you may not be able to turn your head as well. So just be aware that that will affect what you do while you're driving. And just being excited or depressed will make you drive faster, slower, see signs, forget signs, things like that. So we really want to be in the best possible shape that we can be in order to drive a vehicle. We can't control the weather, but we are going to have to drive in all sorts of weather. So write down your notes that when you get into a car, know basically, am I going to be encountering rain, fog? Is it going to snow sometime during my drive? If you're going to be driving for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can go to the Weather Channel. There are other apps that will give you some type of an estimate of when rain is going to happen, snow is going to happen. So you may plan on taking roads that you know that will be well maintained and plowed. Same thing with darkness. If you're going someplace like maybe the movies, you may not like driving at night, so going to a movie earlier in the day would be better than um, doing it later at night when you may feel fatigued and can't see the road as well. And by the way, we do drive in the rain. So just because if you're scheduled to drive and it's raining out, don't think that we're going to cancel. The only time that I usually cancel for driving is that if it's an active snowstorm and the plows are out and they're saying on the radio that it's unsafe for people to be on the road, don't drive unless you absolutely necessarily need to. So that's going to include training. So we don't drive. But if there's an inch or two of snow and roads are plowed, I have no problem driving in winter weather. Traffic conditions. Now, this is for being a new driver. I would be very careful about when your parents take you out to drive. Now, we are encountering a major holiday coming up, the 4th of July. Most restrictions on the COVID have been lifted, so people will be able to travel, stay places. Beaches are open, so we're going to see a high influx of tourists and traffic. So maybe driving during the holiday weekend coming up may not be the best if you have limited amount of driving. Now, if you've got 20 or more hours of driving behind the wheel, I'd say go for it. If your parents are comfortable with it and you want to give it a try, do it. But just be, foretold that traffic on the highway, there's not much room for error. You're going to have to be on your best driving behavior. Same thing with before school, after school. You know that school parking lots are crazy. So if you're not comfortable with all the cars backing out of parking spots and pulling into tight spaces, then maybe driving with your parents before school or after school may not be a good thing. Normal days between 7 and 9 and 4 and 6, we find a high volume of traffic of people going to work. So be aware of that. So there's the driver's ed vehicle. This is what you're going to be driving. Okay, that is out in front of Oyster River. That is usually where you will find me. If I schedule you to drive, that is where I want you to meet me. You will be coming to the school. I have to clean down the car, so the first 5 minutes before you drive, I make sure that I clean the steering wheel, the seat belt, the rear view mirror, all the controls, all the handles and everything. But that's the position that I will be in. So in your notes, write down approach the vehicle. Now, if I just drove up with a student and I let them out and I'm now cleaning the car, you don't have to check around the vehicle. Really, approaching the vehicle and checking around is more for the car's been left there for a couple hours. So you come out from school, there's the car. We don't know what's behind it on the passenger side. So take a look down the left, look down the right side behind it. Make sure no bottles or glass have gone underneath the tires. So you're making a quick check around the vehicle. Maybe check the tires. Do they look soft? Have the lights. Maybe there's a crack or maybe someone has hit the light and broken it. Do you see fluids leaking underneath? Now, I put down license plate. A lot of people say, why would I check my license plate front and back? If you're parked at a mall, if someone steals a car from the mall parking lot, they're not going to be driving around on the stolen vehicle's license plate. They're going to probably steal plates from another car in the area. It could be yours. So this is why I'm saying check around, making sure that you haven't lost your license plate. Another thing that happened in the driver's ed vehicle is I had a car that had a license plate in the front that was a little bit lower than the one you see here, is that we actually hit the curb, and when we pulled up off it, it ripped the license plate off the car. So we were driving around without a license plate, and we got stopped by the state police, and he said, do you know you don't have a license plate on the front of your vehicle? I said, no, I don't. He says, well, it's not there anymore. And I explained what happened. And he gave me basically 10 days to contact the state and get issued a new license plate because it is legal. it is illegal to drive in New Hampshire with only one license plate. So you could actually be given a ticket. He was kind enough, because it was a driver's ed card, just to give us a warning and get the new plate attached. Windows, make sure nobody's cracked the windows, nobody's, tried to get inside the car. And that's basically with carjacking. What I want you to write down with carjacking. Carjacking is basically when someone wants to take your vehicle. Oh, one other thing I want you to write down. Check for animals and small children around a vehicle. Every year in the newspaper, I come across articles, more so about children than animals, but here's a picture of a cat. Cats love to hide, especially when it's cold, near where the engine may be giving off some heat. So this is where you may go and just tap the side of the car a few times to scare any animal that may be around. But the thing about small children is that younger than 3, a lot of times they'll be on like push toys, little trikes, things like that. So if they're around the driveway, check around. Make sure you tell them to get off to the side before you back out onto the roadway. I think the saddest story I came across was a dad in the wintertime was plowing. And, of course, there was no school because it was a snowstorm. Well, off to the side of the driveway, they had a lawn that had a slight hill to it. And I think it was like a 6 or 7-year-old was sledding on the lawn, lost control of the sled and went down off the little area that he was sledding on and went down near the bottom of his driveway. And his dad was backing up the plow. And because the plow has a beeping noise and sits up pretty high, he didn't even see his own child, and he ran over his son and killed his son because the son had lost control of his sled. So these type of things always happen. So make sure kids stay off to the side till you're gone, out of the driveway, especially when you're in reverse. Carjacking. So write down the safety measures to take when approaching your vehicle. So let's say that you're working at the Newington Mall and you're working at Trader Joe's and you've parked your car out away from where normal people park because you don't want people to park next to your car. Make sure it's in a well-lit area. But as you approach your vehicle, have your keys ready. Just in case you see something that looks a little strange, peculiar around your vehicle, you can hit the panic button. Plus, you get the key, and your keys can be somewhat of a, let me get out of here, and I've got my keys in my pocket. So let me show you what I've got. So when you're walking, okay, hold this between your fingers. So if someone is attacking you, you're gonna leave a mark, okay? You're gonna attack the person with the only thing that you have. It's not real sharp, but it will do some damage. So at least they'll be able to see you've put some type of a scrape on them. The other thing is make sure your car is always locked. Never leave your car unlocked in a parking lot. And this story was about a carjacker that was hiding underneath a SUV. So as the person was walking to the car, they had their keys in their hand and they went to unlock the car, but the person was underneath the vehicle. He rolled out from underneath the SUV and he had a knife and he cut both Achilles tendons of the person that was trying to get into their car. Now, when someone cuts your Achilles tendon, you can't stand. So the person's rolling on the ground in pain. They take the keys, they get in the car, and now they drive away. The easiest car to steal is a car that's already running. So in your notes with carjacking, what I want you to write down is make sure that your car is always locked when you leave it, and when you first get into it, make sure it's locked so people can't get in. Especially carjacking may take place at gas stations because you're going to be pulling up to get gas, so you're going to be getting out. So a lot of times people may unlock the door prior to they get out of the vehicle. Someone can jump right in next to you. They may have a knife, a gun, and tell you to drive off. The other thing I want you to write down, stop signs and traffic lights. Anytime that you're stopping your vehicle and you're looking left or right, people can get into the vehicle if it's not locked. Now, this woman is giving a newscast about what happened at a gas station. So let's see what she has to say about what happened.
This noon, a developing story out of Kalamazoo County. One man is dead, another arrested for the shooting and carjacking. 24-hour News 8's Tony Tagliavia is working this story. He's on the phone right now with new information. Tony?
Afternoon, Emily. Investigators tell us the victim has died. He's identified as a 47-year-old man from the Vicksburg area. Police say he was shot around 5:30 this morning at the Shell station in downtown Augusta when investigators say a man tried to take the car he was riding in. Police tell us the suspect then tried to take another car but failed and ran away. He ran on foot. Investigators caught up to him about a half-mile north of town. They were able to take him into custody. We talked with the Augusta police chief, who was among the law enforcement officers who took him into custody. He says he's glad they were able to take him in relatively soon after the shooting, but of course still sad to hear the news that the victim in this case has died. Police
always give
also
up your
caught the
vehicle.
gun. That's something
If
that
there's
they're
any
thankful for,
reason
worried that
why
kids in the area might have come
they
across
want
it.
it's not for you
Don't
to
know if the
argue
suspect in this case
and make
will
the situation
appear in
worse.
court
Just
today.
get out of the vehicle at that point, and give it up. Now, part of that newscast was saying that he got into a vehicle and then he tried to take another car. The reason why he needed to go and steal another car, I believe, this is my take on it, is that he jumped into a manual transmission vehicle and he couldn't drive a manual transmission. So why steal a car that you can't drive? So I believe that is what happened there. Another reason to look around your vehicle, as we said about animals, but can you imagine you go out to drive your car and you live in Florida? Can you imagine seeing that underneath your car? Okay, I would stay away. I would stay away. So once you've looked around your vehicle and you know that it looks pretty safe, tires look fine, there's no fluids, then lock the doors. As we just said, we don't want anybody getting in. And by the way, in the driver's ed car, someone did try to get in the driver's ed car once in Dover. It was Halloween night. We were driving around 6 o'clock, and the car was locked. We were at a stop sign, and I believe it was a intoxicated person. I think he saw the yellow sign, and he thought we were a taxi. So he tried to get in the back. He was just kind of mumbling, let me in, let me in. And the driver was freaking out because we couldn't pull out from the stop sign. There wasn't a place for us to pull out. So we were waiting for a gap in traffic, but it got a little scary for a little bit, but wasn't able to get in, so no harm. Once you're in the vehicle, always adjust your seat. You should be very, very comfortable. Like I said, I'm not going to go over a lot of this because I'm going to show you in the video a little bit later tonight how to adjust the actual driver's ed vehicle seat. This is a picture from an old driver's ed car that I had, and I just haven't replaced it with new pictures with the new car. So adjust the seat. Next thing I want you to write down is lock seat belts. We're going to have a whole unit coming up next week. Actually, I believe on Monday. We're going to start that on seat belts, airbags, and helmets. It is a law. Under the age of 18, you have to be in a seatbelt here in New Hampshire. It is a law in most other states. New Hampshire is one of the only states, I believe, it is the only state, I believe, that doesn't require adults older than 18 to be belted. So you do it at your own free will. But I am a true believer about being safe behind the wheel of the car, and always, always will be in a seatbelt. So even if you were 19, 20 taking driver's ed and legally you didn't have to have it on, you would, because I would make you put it on. Adjusting your mirrors. This is where I can find out those drivers that have done a lot of driving with parents, and those parents that have taken the time to really self-train their son or daughter about driving. All my students that know how to adjust mirrors well before they drive, I can tell probably have more than 20 hours of driving in. You cannot drive doing lane changes and merging on the highway unless you are adequate with mirror checks. A lot of people think, why do I need mirrors? As long as I know where I'm going and I can look to the left and to the right, I really don't need to know what's behind me. I don't need to know what's to the side of me. Oh, yes, you do, especially if you're making a lane change or merging. Now, even at stop signs and making turns, I am a firm believer that whenever you make a turn, you go from one road to another road, you look in your mirrors before you make the turn, you look in your mirrors after you make a turn, just to see how close people are following you. So we have 3 mirrors, a rear view, left side, right side. So how do we adjust mirrors? Now, this is the traditional way, where you can see in the rearview mirror the white pickup truck is also picked up in the left side mirror. The car to the right in the rearview mirror is also picked up in the right side mirror. You don't see any portion of your vehicle in your side mirrors. I tend to want students, when they start to learn to drive, you can see a little bit of the side of the car in the right side mirror, but you can't see it over on the left side. But if you were to take a go outside and see where you start to lose vision, there is an overlap. If you take a look at the dotted blue line and the dotted orange line, okay, that is what is being seen with your side view mirrors. So what you basically want to do is, when you get comfortable with using your side mirrors, is make sure that dotted blue line and the dotted orange line goes closer to the green line. Right now, there's a lot of overlapping, and you don't want that overlapping. So let's take a look what they're trying to do now. Notice you cannot see the vehicles in the side mirrors. Notice how those dotted lines now just touch the top portion of the green line to the left and to the right on both side mirrors. So there is no overlapping. You're just touching a little portion of it. So you're eliminating more of the blind spot. So if you see where the car to the left and to the right of that red vehicle, that is going to show up in the side mirror just ever so slightly. If we go back just a picture, notice that that same gold car is totally blind to you. You cannot see it. So pushing out your mirrors is probably more recommended the more driving experience. I like to do it the traditional way to confirm what you see, and then as you get better as a driver, then to go to the new method of adjusting mirrors. So how can you control the movement of your vehicle? Of course, you need keys to start a car, unless you've got a car like the driver's ed vehicle that has something called a fob. A fob is just an electronic device that is connected to the starter. That means that if that fob is inside the vehicle and you step on the brake pedal and push the power button, the car starts up. On a traditional car with a key, you're putting the key into the ignition and turning it all the way to the right till you hear the engine turn over, and then you're releasing the key and the car will stay in the on position. If you take your key and you only turn it 1 or 2 notches, you will get some electronic devices to be activated, but the car is not on. The car does not start until the car has had the key turned all the way over to the right and then released. Steering wheel should be adjusted with a tilt. Most cars now come with that, so you should have a very good hand position, and then the accelerator and the brake. I think most of you know the accelerator is off to the right and the brake is to the left. So the vertical is accelerator, horizontal is the brake pedal. Now, what I want you to write down in your notes, every car you drive will have different size pedals. Some will be thin, some will be thick. And then the other thing is called pedal displacement, meaning that how close the gas pedal is to the brake. Some may be like 4 or 5 inches. Some may be 7 or 8 inches. Like a pickup truck would probably be a little bit different. So let me kind of get out of here. So if my 2 hands are the pedals, is that notice that they're relatively close, though they may be a little bit further away or back and forth like this. That's pedal displacement. That's what you've got to be looking for. So your foot may not be able to get over to the pedal as quickly. Real quick, each gear is going to be corresponded with a letter. So from top to bottom on your shift. Now this is on a automatic that's on the floor. If it was on the column, which means it's up near your right hand, like your directional lever, where you're bringing that lever towards you and you're moving that lever to the left or to the right. So if this was on the on your steering column, okay, the lever is right off the steering column. Park would be way over to the left, and then low 1, low 2 would be way over to the right. So this is for an automatic on the floor. The first gear is park, so make sure you know that locks the transmission. That's the gear that you're going to be in to start the engine. Reverse is for backing up the car. We will be spending one lesson in reverse using our side mirrors, backing to the right, backing to the left, seeing how well you can control the vehicle in reverse. Neutral, most people don't know this, is the only other gear that you can be in to start a car. So for whatever reason, if your car won't start in park, see if there's a way that you can depress the brake pedal and get your car into neutral. Sometimes when you have transmission problems, you may be able to find neutral and you may not have much success in park. Also, neutral is going to be the gear that you're in to get towed. You can't tow a vehicle. And neutral is also the gear that you're in if you go through a car wash. So don't leave your car in gear. Then you have your basic D for drive. That's the gear that you're going to move the vehicle going forward. That's what the gear that we use mostly. The only reason why you'd go to low 1, low 2 in the driver's ed car that I have right now, it's actually called B. That is to get more torque, more pulling power. This is good for going up hills, going downhill, to control the speed of your vehicle, to have more control in bad weather. So shifting to one of these lower gears does have advantages at certain times. So once you drive with me, if you want to be put in a situation to use this gear, let me know and we'll set it up. But for the most part, we're going to be using park, reverse, drive. We don't use low 1, 2, or neutral. So that's what it looks like in the driver's ed vehicle right now. Now, every car is going to have a different shift pattern. So just know that in this car, you're going to have your foot depressed on the brake pedal, move it over to the right, and then that will get you down to the gears below. This is a big debate. I was actually having this talk with a student this afternoon because he had started at a different driving school, and they said he could only grab the wheel at 10 and 2. The recommended hand position for steering, if the steering wheel is the face of a clock, is 10 and 2, 9 and 3, 8 and 4. Okay, that is where you ultimately would like to see your hand position. I am not to the point where I'm going to make you grab in those 3 positions exclusively. Meaning that if you grab at 2 o'clock and your hand is down at 8 o'clock, you still have 2 hands on the wheel. You're keeping your car centered in the roadway. You're making a decent turn. I'm going to probably leave you alone. There are 2 ways to turn a wheel. One from the top, which is hand over hand, or from the bottom, which is push-pull. I think we have that coming up. So let me kind of get out of here. So with steering, one hand backing. This is my wife, and you can see she's got her right hand behind the passenger seat, but she's got her left hand at 12 o'clock. She's going to be backing up for about 30 feet right here. If she has to go to the right or to the left, she's going to move that wheel just a little bit, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. But if she's going 90 degrees, then the right hand's going to come back on the wheel to help bend around a corner where it's a 90-degree turn. But for the most part, backing up can be done with one hand on the steering wheel. Now, the 2 types of steering, hand over hand, okay, here's a good hand position of 9 and 3. She's going to be making a left turn right now. So her right hand is going to start the turn. Her left hand's going to cross over to 1 o'clock and then pull down on the wheel, and then she's going to let it loose. That's hand over hand. The other method is grabbing at 8 and 4, where you're shuffling the wheel with only 3 or 4 inches at a time. I like push-pull for parking, sometimes going around the traffic circle, but usually at speeds probably below 10 miles per hour. Higher than 10, I'm probably going to do hand over hand. But if you're exclusively push-pull or exclusively hand over hand, I'm going to let it go. If you're steering well, you're turning well, I'm going to let it go. because I want you to remember this. This is a technique. It is not a law. They cannot fail you for your driving test the way you grab the steering wheel. Now, if you make a bad turn, they can fail you for a bad turn because it was bad because the way that you were turning the wheel. You had some strange way of turning the wheel. Like some people I notice will grab underneath when they make a turn. Okay, if they're oversteering too much, it might be because you're grabbing underneath rather than grabbing from the top. So it's not the grabbing of the wheel that's going to get you in trouble. It's the actual turn. Because there are people, and if anybody gives you a debate about how many hands should you have on the steering wheel, okay, ask them this question. Can a paraplegic or a quadriplegic drive a vehicle? Yes, they can. Well, wonder if they don't have use of their arms. How are they going to steer? They've learned to set up equipment, adaptive equipment, where you can use your head. You can use your mouth. Okay, a toggle switch. Okay, a toggle switch with one hand will steer a car. Okay, so you can steer a car different ways. It's just recommended to always have two hands on the wheel because it gives you quicker. That's the optimum. But less than optimum sometimes will be okay. So hopefully I didn't confuse you. Most people don't know about the dead pedal, so that's why I included that. There's a piece of plastic just off to the left of the brake. That's called a dead pedal. That's where I want you to rest your foot. A dead pedal gives you balance on a turn that's being made too fast. So you push down on the dead pedal, it pushes the back part of your back against the seat. Because when you drive, watch, I'll show you. When you drive and you make a turn too fast, your body is going to lean. So when your body leans, the airbag's going to come out over here. But when you push on that dead pedal, it's pushing you up against the back of your seat and keeping you more upright. Okay, race car drivers usually do that for when they go into turns. So that's a piece of plastic. So there's the dead pedal right there in the driver's ed vehicle. And by the way, that metal piece on the brake behind it, that connects over to a brake that I have on my side. So this is a picture of the current driver's ed vehicle. So what I'm going to give you right now is some terms that I want you to write down. If you don't get all of it, you could come back to the video a little bit later and write them down. But at least write down the term light acceleration. One of these terms will probably, or two of these terms may be on the midterm. Light acceleration is light pressure being applied to the pedal. Now, you don't have to write this part down, but I gave the example here as if you were to soak a sponge, fully submerge it with water, and then you told someone to put your foot just on the top of the sponge and see if you can make some of that water kind of ooze out. That is kind of pressure. It's almost like stepping on an egg just before you break it. Okay, feeling that you're putting some pressure on it, but now anymore, it may bust it. It's used for smooth starts, and it's the beginning of most turns from a stop position. So at a stop sign, you're using light acceleration. Progressive acceleration is a steady increase in the pressure on the gas pedal. It's used to get your speed up to the speed limit. Once it's at the desired speed, you learn to maintain that pressure. Most of your driving will be on a progressive acceleration. Cover brake is when your foot hovers over the brake pedal. You're no longer on the gas pedal. You've moved over to the brake pedal and you're anticipating something that's going to happen. Let's say that you're driving towards an intersection and you see a person on a bicycle. You're afraid the bicycle may cross the street. So what you're going to do is you're going to cover the brake thinking he's going to come out in front of you. Maybe you're approaching a traffic light. You think it's going to turn yellow. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to cover the brake. Now you may not use it because the light never changed. It never went to yellow and then red. Covering the brake in heavy traffic. It's stop and go. So cars are just putting along at 5, 6, 7 miles per hour. You've got a good 3-4 seconds in front of your vehicle. You're just keeping your foot over the brake and just moving with the slow flow. Controlled braking is just regular braking. It's just even, firm pressure on the brake pedal. It's for non-emergencies. So stopping at stop signs, stopping behind stop cars, and something called the limousine stop. And when I say try not to have the vehicle pitch forward too much, whenever the vehicle pitches, and I don't know if you can even see this, is that when the vehicle pitches, it goes forward and then it comes back. So if I went to the side right now, so if you see the side view, so pitching is when the car goes forward and then it comes back. You can actually feel it in the driver's seat. You can feel your body going forward and then it comes backwards. That is what we call a legal stop or resting stop. That is what you're looking for. You want to feel the pitch. Now, in some driving schools, they're going to make you, after you stop, to count to 3. I don't do that. I just make sure, can you feel the pitch? If you say yes, and if you've looked left and right, you see there's no traffic, I'm going to let you make a turn or go through the intersection. I'm not going to have you count at every traffic light and every stop sign. Okay? You're not going to go 1, 2, 3. No. I'm more concerned about the pitch. Because think about it. Could you be slowing down and going really, really slow and still count 1, 2, 3 and still have the car moving forward? Yes, you can. Just because you're counting doesn't mean you've stopped the car. So you've got to feel the pitch, and if it's pitched, you've stopped. Make sure you make your checks to go. Now, a limousine stop is taking away some of that heavy pitch. So what you want to do prior to the stop line, about 5 to 10 feet, is almost come to a stop. If you're almost coming to a stop just prior to that stop line, then you're inching up to it. You're going to take away pretty much that heavy pitch. Trail braking, I want you to write down when to use it. So down to the third bullet, the last few seconds of stopping, that's your limousine stop. Backing up in reverse, you're going to be on the brake pedal, letting go of the brake to move backwards. Going forward into a parking space, to creep up, let's say in traffic, or at the beginning of making some type of a moving situation. All situations where you're letting go of the brake to move the car. Because remember, you're idling and there is gas going to the engine and the car will move. Threshold braking is emergency braking. This is maximum force on the brake pedal without locking the wheels. And it's used for emergency situations. Now, what I want you to write down in your notes with threshold braking is push down as hard as you can. Remember, you cannot break the brake. Does that make sense? You cannot break the brake. So, the accelerator and the brake pedal. The brake pedal is really the most important pedal to learn. It keeps you from going where you don't want to go. So, if you haven't done much driving, and I don't know what the driving experience of everybody in this class is, the class that I'm doing right now, quite a few people have driving experience, so this is good. So we really don't have to go over this our first time out. But have a feel for the brake. Know when you are going to stop. There's nothing worse than thinking you're going to stop someplace like at a line or behind a car and then having the car go further than what you anticipated. Now, most experienced drivers can learn most pedals within 10 minutes. So if your parents had to rent a car from the airport, even though they've never driven this particular brand before, they should be able to get into that rental and within 10 minutes kind of have a feel how much pressure is going to be needed to make the car accelerate and how much to make the car slow down and stop. And also remember, and I want you to write this down, each pedal will make the car do the opposite of what its intended purpose is. So the purpose of a brake pedal is to stop a car. But if you let go of the brake pedal, you pick up speed. So when I tell you to go faster going into a parking spot, doesn't mean I want you to take your foot off the brake and go to the gas. It may be just let go of the brake a little bit more just to get a little bit more movement of the vehicle, but still being on the brake. Same thing with going fast down a hill. If I say you're going too fast down a hill, watch your speed. I don't necessarily mean I want you to brake. I want you to take your foot off the accelerator. See if the car will slow itself down. Remember, the weight of a vehicle will slow itself down eventually. And parking brake will keep your car from rolling and parking situations. Visual scan of all your gauges. The reason why that yellow light is on right there is a maintenance requirement in the driver's ed car. And actually, this is current. It's on the car right now. I need an oil change. So hopefully sometime next week, that light will not be on in my car. But right now, when I took the picture, it's on. So it alerts you to something. So I want you to write this down, okay? A red light warning light on your instrument panel is something that you have to contend with right now. So right now, in this picture, there is a red light on. In the comments on YouTube, write down what that red light is indicating. What needs to be done right now. All right? So a yellow light is something that should be looked at and taken care of. A red light is something must be taken care of. Now, the green light, it's kind of a greenish tint to it, deals with the hybrid. So green is usually a symbol of being energy efficient. So this hybrid car is indicating a few things to us on the instrument panel. So in the notes, what is that red light indicating? What must you do? It's a warning light. Everybody should know where the speedometer is, how to read it, whether it be a dial or digital. Odometer tracks the miles that the vehicle has been driven. Tripometer can be used for going on trips. It helps kind of figure out what your gas mileage is. And probably the most important thing here is that the fuel gauge. And we'll be taking a look at a quick slide presentation a little bit later, not today. Good. I see the answers coming in. Fuel gauge, make sure that we're above half. So in your notes, make sure that if it's below half, you're telling me. I don't expect you to pump gas and buy right now because of COVID. I'm not going to have you get outside of the vehicle and touch a pump, but it's very important that you know that you're running out of fuel. Very hard to run out of fuel in a hybrid, but it can happen. So I'm not asking you to pump gas or to pay for gas, but I do want you to know, tell me when we're getting kind of low. So I'm glad that people are writing down the answers so I can see who is still here and watching. So this is good. Alternator, I want you to write down these three because these are the three biggies, or actually there's four. One more is coming up. So all I want you to write down, alternator gauge means that you have an electrical problem. Usually that means your battery is losing power or your alternator isn't giving you current. So if your alternator light or the electrical gauge is coming on, it means that the alternator is probably malfunctioning. Temperature gauge, I'm worried about that right now because of the high temperatures that we've had and because I'm kind of low on oil. Be very careful. Don't drive the car. We aren't overheating in the driver's ed vehicle. We're not even coming close to it. But I'm always concerned that may happen at some point because the car is getting older and it can't push the oil through it as well as it used to. Brake warning light means brake problems, so it probably has to do with fluid level. So make sure that you check your fluid levels. Oil pressure gauge or warning light alerts you that there's not enough oil pressure being pumped through the engine. So stop immediately. This is a big one. You're going to ruin your engine. If this light comes on, you don't pull over real quick. I had a daughter that had a car, and they didn't change the oil. And we were driving to Texas. She was going to do an internship. And we got into Virginia. We had been driving all day long, so 8-9 hours of driving, maybe even more. And the light came on, and within like a minute, we couldn't even get off the highway on the lane that we're on. And the engine was totally blue. They told us when they towed the vehicle, we had to get a hotel room. They told us to get a new engine would be 3 days and it would cost us $2,500. The cost of an oil change is around $50. Don't make the mistake of going cheap on maintaining your vehicle. Part of your homework that you're going to have to do is a worksheet of controls. So I'm going to be giving that to you through the Facebook page. So just make a note. That's going to be part of what you have to do. It will be on the Facebook page. I'll post it probably. It's under downloads. I know that maybe I'll just post it in another post. I'll put it tomorrow morning, so I won't do it tonight. I'll do it tomorrow morning. I'll put the worksheets on. Other lights you should be familiar with: parking lights, seat belts, ABS, high beams, running lights, emergency lights. Be familiar with their colors. Be familiar where they're located. I bet you most of you probably don't even know what color your backup lights are. Okay. In a text message now, so don't do the comment in YouTube. Do it on a text message to me on your phone. What color are your backup lights? I'll bet you anything there's at least 4 of you that won't get it right. Other controls that you should be familiar with is the heat and air. There's the radio. I don't mind listening to music while we drive, as long as it's not too loud. Phone is connected to mine, so the Bluetooth is connected, so when I do drive alone, I can answer calls because I do all my business while I'm in the car. So absolutely no handheld phone to my ear. Everything is through the device. Hey, Catherine got it right from the get-go. Very good. Gas, trunk, hood are on the floor or underneath the instrument panel. You should know that. Headlights, windshield wipers off to the left and right of the steering wheel, so make sure that you don't. This class is pretty smart. Everybody's getting it right. I've had classes that didn't know what color the backup lights were. Everybody's getting it right. Nice job, everybody. Not a single person's gotten it wrong. Very good. Yep, everybody's getting white. Yep, white is the correct answer. So very good. So what you just saw on the right here, this is part of what I want you to do. So this is the worksheet that I'm going to give to you that I want you to do as homework. So there's 2 sheets. There's this sheet, and then there's this sheet. So you got 2. All right. I don't think, let's see if I can get out of here. There's one more sheet that I've got to see if I can find. I can't believe everybody in the class has got it right. Everybody's getting the question right. I'm going to just see something here for a minute. I'm going to try to pull it out. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That's what you're going to be using, your car manual. So go to the glove compartment and get a car manual. This is basically showing you the tire size that you need. There's a worksheet. I'm trying to find the worksheet under my files here. I don't know if I've got it here or not. What did I do with it? Anyways, I've got it in Facebook. So we're going to have to go to that and do it through Facebook. So go to the Facebook page. Tomorrow I'll have it relisted. If not, it's still there under Instrument Panel 1, Instrument Panel 2. So it's a download off on the left-hand side. You can find it. And also there's a Know Your Vehicle worksheet that you have to do. So the last thing that I want you to do, and this will be for tonight, is I have made a video, I said, of looking around the vehicle. Basically what we've covered tonight. This is going to show you inside the vehicle. So whether you do it right now or you do it sometime later this weekend, I don't mind. I'm going to get it up right now. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see if it comes on. There we go. So this is the video that I want you to see. Okay? It basically is called Getting Ready to Drive. It's roughly about 25 minutes long, but it goes through the car. I'm going to just scroll forward. So some of the things that we talked about. So here's the instrument panel. It goes through things. It'll show you a couple of videos that I downloaded. And so it's everything that we've just basically covered tonight, but you get to see it inside the driver's ed car. So that's what I want you to do for either the rest of tonight or to do it sometime later this weekend. Just get acquainted with the driver's ed vehicle. I'm still hoping by the end of the third week, fourth week, we will be getting in the car. We'll be doing these things. So I want you to do that. So for the rest of the night, make sure you do chapter 4 and 5. I've had probably half of you that sent in those questions. So I do want those questions done. And then on Monday, remember, class next week will be Monday and Tuesday. No Wednesday or Thursday next week. Some people taking long holidays. But I'm still going to be around doing driving. So if I have any openings, I'll give you guys a call. But we're going to cover seatbelts, airbags, and helmets on Monday. Getting your license, titling, registration on Tuesday. So the homework, worksheet that I just showed you, and car controls, that's going to be on Facebook. So if you haven't subscribed to the Facebook page, do so at this time. And we'll see you on Monday. So do those worksheets. Have a great weekend.